Welcome, Commander. Let's get right into it. Today's explainer serves as a tactical briefing on a massive anomaly sitting right in the heart of China, the Three Gorges Dam. We're going to unpack the actionable intelligence behind this megastructure. Because, well, what officially operates as a standard civil engineering project is actually masking one of the most complex strategic puzzles on the globe right now.
So here's the bottom line up front, the bluff. We are not just looking at a mere power station here. In reality, this facility is a strategic military liability disguised as civilian infrastructure. It operates as one of the most heavily fortified military installations in all of China. I mean, we're talking about a facility commanding resources that honestly rival active combat zones. To understand why they guard it like this, we have to define it as a strategic vulnerability, because this dam receives the kind of permanent, massive protection normally reserved for things like nuclear weapons facilities or strategic command centers. It constantly dictates the People's Liberation Army's resource allocation. It's a critical vulnerability that demands absolutely unwavering protection. It effectively chains incredibly valuable military assets to a static location.
For today's agenda, we'll run through the situation report on the facility, map out the 5 defensive layers, calculate the strategic resource diversion, and finish up with a forward-looking assessment of evolving threat vectors. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, our situation report on this civilian fortress. Intelligence reveals a pretty stark contrast between the dam's official role and its actual military posture on the ground. Officially, sure, it handles civil engineering, generating power, controlling floods, enabling navigation. But tactically, the airspace right above it is anything but civilian. It's strictly controlled military airspace monitored 24/7 by the PLA. Plus, the perimeter is completely locked down with a comprehensive defense architecture. The fact that a hydroelectric dam warrants this level of permanent lockdown, well, it tells you everything you need to know about how the Chinese High Command assesses their own risk here. Moving on to Section 2, let's assess the blue team's defense architecture. What we're observing is a textbook layered defense system operating in 5 concentric rings. This architecture escalates from early warning systems pushed hundreds of kilometers out, stepping all the way down to rapid-fire close-in weapon systems and intense electronic jamming at the very core. Let's break down exactly what kind of hardware is actually deployed within these rings. Looking at the outer perimeter, you've got overlapping radar and satellite surveillance providing that first layer, detecting threats hundreds of kilometers away. That early warning creates a critical time window to scramble J-10 and J-11 fighters. Those jets maintain a constant state of combat readiness at nearby air bases to intercept incoming bogies. Now, if an attacker somehow penetrates that initial fighter screen, they enter the third layer, surface-to-air missiles. This is a formidable net of HQ-9 long-range batteries, basically China's equivalent to the Russian S-300, backed up by HQ-16 point defense systems optimized for mid-range interception. But what if a cruise missile actually survives those outer rings and breaches the inner airspace? That triggers the final layers of point defense. You have rapid-fire CWS guns calibrated to literally shred a threat in its final seconds of flight. And right alongside that kinetic defense is a dense wall of electronic warfare. These systems deploy localized jamming to disrupt guidance sensors, confuse GPS targeting, and essentially blind the incoming weapons before they can even execute a strike on the dam's structural integrity. Which brings us to Section 3, the strategic opportunity cost of maintaining this massive static defense. Here is the real kicker, Commander. Every single fighter squadron, every SAM battery, and every advanced electronic warfare asset permanently locked in to defending the Three Gorges is an asset forcefully removed from offensive operations. The void left behind directly impacts maritime projection and air superiority in critical theaters like the Taiwan Strait. In peacetime, sure, this resource diversion is just a logistical headache, but in a highly contested conflict scenario, it morphs into a massive strategic liability that severely degrades the PLA's operational flexibility. Chinese military planners are basically facing a permanent, excruciating puzzle known as the optimization problem. If you assign too little defense, the dam remains incredibly vulnerable to a catastrophic strike that could literally flood your industrial heartland. But if you assign too much defense, your offensive power projection is severely degraded across all other fronts. And this isn't a static calculation. The required balance is constantly shifting based on regional geopolitics and the continuous rapid advancements in precision-guided munitions. Let's pivot to Section 4, assessing the red team capabilities and those evolving asymmetric threats.
The reality is, offensive threat vectors are aggressively outpacing static defenses. You've got hypersonic missiles traveling at Mach 5 or faster, which compresses defensive response times from a comfortable window of minutes down to mere seconds. Then you have stealth cruise missiles, specifically engineered to slip past that outer radar net completely undetected until it's too late. Furthermore, autonomous drone swarms, they don't even need to outsmart CIAS point defenses, they just overwhelm them with sheer numbers and deplete the defender's ammunition. Finally, cyber warfare offers a non-kinetic backdoor. We're talking about the capability to blind defense nodes or disable the dam's internal control systems entirely without firing a single shot.
All of this creates a totally grueling cost-exchange ratio. We've seen this dynamic modeled with U.S. forces in the Strait of Hormuz, right? A cheap $20,000 attacker drone forces the expenditure of a highly sophisticated $5 million defensive interceptor missile. The math heavily favors the aggressor.
It's the fundamental law of asymmetric warfare. The defender's financial and resource costs will always exceed the attacker's costs. This brutal math basically ensures that the capital required to defend this aging megastructure is going to endlessly outpace the cost to strike it. It locks the PLA into a permanent cycle of escalating investment, just to maintain their current baseline of security against munitions that are getting cheaper and more capable by the day. Wrapping things up with Section 5, our final strategic assessment. Our assessment is that the defense, while highly impressive, is inherently insufficient. The multi-layered commitment is undeniably a formidable engineering and military feat. It is genuinely designed to protect China's most vital civilian structure. But it remains fundamentally flawed because the consequences of even a single kinetic penetration are literally civilizational. A breach would yield catastrophic downstream flooding and massive power grid failure. When you're defending a massive static megastructure, 99.9% effectiveness just might not be enough. No defensive system on Earth is completely perfect, and a structure of this magnitude, one that can't be moved, can't be hidden, and definitely cannot evade incoming fire, simply cannot afford even a fraction of a percent failure rate. Which leads us directly to our debrief conclusion captured perfectly in the intelligence briefing materials. The Three Gorges Dam is the world's most expensive defensive liability disguised as a civilian infrastructure project. As the dam ages, and as offensive military technology becomes faster, smarter, and significantly cheaper, that civilian disguise is wearing exceptionally thin. So, Commander, does this military dimension shift your assessment of global infrastructure risk? Does it alter your calculus on how quickly civilian concrete can transform into a strategic anchor, tying down an entire military's resources? Review this intelligence and prepare your operational assessments for the next scenario. We'll be continuing our tactical breakdowns of megastructure vulnerabilities worldwide in future explainers. Until then, briefing adjourned.